Now, did he have mistakes? People could say we're sitting there on the couch and we could say, hey, yeah, he said the wrong shit, this and that. And, you know, and sometimes we forget that these guys are human that are fighting and that, you know, hey, how about what Ryan Garcia did to make, no matter what he was going to tell Devin that night, that was not going to be Devin's night.
Who did you have for Haney Garcia going into it?
Well, I'll be honest. I was like everyone else. I thought Haney because of, you know, mostly because of his how, you know, his activity lately and the high level of competition. I kind of went with Haney by decision, but I wasn't discounting Ryan, or I didn't really look into all those headlines and stuff. I just kind of went along with what I thought. So I with that, yeah, I went with Haney.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I mean, I picked Haney by decision too, but I kept on telling everybody because I had a buddy who wanted to bet Garcia, and I'm like, look, it's not a bad bet because of the was it plus at one point it was like plus 900, and I think by fight time it was like plus 55 or 550. But I told him that I always equated, like, when he fought Tank, I thought he fought him the worst way possible. Like, I always felt he was a one trick pony. He has terrible footwork, but if he uses that left is deadly, one punch, God given. Any fighter in the world, if you would ask him to have that weapon, they would say yes in a heartbeat, right? And I
right,
was there. I saw him. I've seen him live once, and when he throws that left, it's like a gunshot when he lands. I mean, ringside,
right,
it's so loud because it's so quick. So I always knew that he had that knockout. He had that ability to hit Haney. And then after the Leonardis fight, when Haney got clipped, I think in the 11th round or something like that, I was like, oh, he kind of does that. What is that called? That the Philly shell. So
right.
if you if you come up on him and fake the jab and come around him, he's susceptible because he keeps that down low, right? So I
Right.
always thought, like, there's a potential because of where he keeps his punch, where he keeps his mitt or his glove, and he should have had it up here, right? But he always keeps it down here, and then as soon as he opened up, Ryan could have hit him. But like I said, with all the craziness, he fooled me. Like I was like, what the hell's up with this kid?
Well,
His,
I thought he like he's saying, yeah, stylistically we picked Haney because Haney's been a very active fighter, and I
yeah,
don't think we saw. I mean, Haney fight his best fight on the night. I think he got a little caught up in everything, and um he didn't look so disciplined. He actually, if you want to go back to Garcia and Tank Davis, Garcia was overzealous. He ran into some stuff. You know what I mean?
right.
And maybe he didn't find a disciplined fight. I think they're both very fundamentally sound kids, but I think on the night, Haney and with Haney and Garcia, I think Haney got a little bit thrown off, and that can happen in one round. I mean, it probably all changed when he got hit with that first left hook. When he got stunned. You know what I mean? And maybe that changed the dynamics. And it's, and he got a little emotional and he started walking him down. And everybody knows you don't follow a puncher, especially a fast one. So after that first, 1, 2 rounds, when he felt, how strong Garcia was and how fast he was, it just took him out of his game plan and just, put him into a fight where he left himself more susceptible to get hit with those shots. The Philly shell thing, I think, if it works for him. They're both are quick, fast fighters. I mean, Ryan, when you have that kind of speed, you can get away with stuff like bad footwork, and obviously he's a good puncher as well. So, because honestly, I thought Ryan fought in spurts too. I mean, it wasn't like a master class. Haney had his moments. I honestly, I mean, Garcia did win because of he did win more rounds. He had the knockdowns and all that, but it by no means was it a clean clinical fight by either guy. It's
Yeah.
just the X factor was Garcia's power and his timing. So
Yeah.
yeah, you got to give your hat off to him for that. But um, there's, like I said, as far as like the adjustments, that's things that they have to do on the fly sometimes. And you know, Devin Woodley wasn't able to adjust, and he just kept running into those heavy shots. And I mean, hey, Garcia did the job.
Yeah, I think there's two things for me. One, I always thought that Ryan needed to be more like he's more skilled than Deontay Wilder, but if he was with his skill set, and I don't think in terms of in the 147, 140 divisions, he's at the top besides the knockout, besides his power. I mean, which obviously gets him close to the top. But in terms of just overall skill set, I think he has bad footwork, and he needed to play within his skill set. And to me, it's like that's what Deontay Wilder did. He's like, okay, you're gonna beat me up for 5, 6, 7 rounds, but I'm gonna get you with my power. And I feel like that's a patient fighter. You wait for the opportunity, you look for the counter to knock the guy out. And I felt like that was Ryan's that was through training. Because when he came into the Tank fight, I don't know what the hell he was doing. That was the worst game plan ever seen against Tank, to be that aggressive against a guy who's just as
Well,
fast.
it's a flip flop. Tank got him to that point with all the different things he did leading up to the fight.
Right.
Getting him down to that weight, having the weight
Oh
restriction, and he just made him so. He kind of took a note off the Tank in a way. He learned, and he saw something he could try to exploit. And a lot of there was a lot of talk with this fight with these guys in between them, and a lot of history. I mean, 3 amateur fights or 4 amateur fights between them. So the families, and there was all that drama. And
yeah.
I mean, Ryan saw. I mean, like I said, it was going to be who didn't follow their fight plan and was going to be the one who got there ultimately quicker. And Garcia looked good. Did have 3 pounds though, and he had, he. But again, like you signed the contract, and Garcia did a hell of a job. What can you say?
Yeah.
He did it his way, and it's a different era we're in. It's a little, here we have a guy. They're calling, he could be one of the faces of boxing, and a world title doesn't even necessarily matter. You
Right.
know what I mean? Just because of his social media exposure as well. So,
Oh yeah.
but it was a big fight. He did the job, and it's unfortunate for him he didn't do it at 140 completely and win the WBC championship. But again, like I said, this kid's got more money than then he knows what to do with it. So what's the point of the belt?
Yeah, you got money when you put $2 million on yourself.
Yeah. Hey, good for him, man. It was
Hell
it
yeah.
was a hell of a fight. It was good. It was fun to watch because it was unexpected.
Yeah.
And knowing the backstory and all the back and forth between Bill Haney and Garcia's camp and Garcia, it's all funny. Um, but yeah, man, they got in there and they really let their hands go, and both guys made very good money, and they're both they'll both fight another day. I mean, Haney's not done, and this is just a matter of like I think these big fights happening like this are what we need. So
Yeah. Oh,
kudos to the kids.
yeah. I another thing that I noticed too that I think is I really think there's a difference between in the gym trainer and a ring coach, ring trainer, someone who is in the heat of the moment and can actually adjust the game plans throughout the fight. And I feel that to be in that position at fight night, you need experience. It's the only way it works as a trainer, that you need to be in those situations, just like a fighter needs to be in certain situations. You need to understand where your fighter's at. And I really feel, and this is just in general to fathers who come in and train their sons, they may be good in the gym, but I
Right.
think Lomachenko suffers from the same thing. His father's a very good trainer. Obviously, look at both Haney, look at both Lomachenko. Their skill sets are set. Their skill sets are amazing in terms of their talent and their dedication to the sport. But when it really comes down to it, I feel like Haney's dad, um, he's just has not had that experience of that level of fight when his son is in trouble like that. and that comes with time. I remember when Robert Garcia was young and was like 34 when he started training, he was making mistakes in the corner. And, a lot of people, as now he's on his way to being a Hall of Fame trainer, but he had to learn on the job. And I think at this point, now that Haney, like, it's if Haney didn't have his best night, there was still a game plan laid out for any fighter now going to face him, on how to beat him. I feel that he needs an additional trainer to come in during fight night and assess what's going on a round by round basis and give him the truth. Because his father, from the calls that I could hear, I don't know what fight he was watching. And I feel like it's a detriment going forward if he continues to have his father in the corner as the main number one, calling the shots and watching the card, because I feel that his father, the trainers, Derek James versus Haney, made the big difference in that fight, with how their fighters handled the stress of that moment.
Right.
Well, and I know, as a trainer, go ahead.
Bill, also, I know Bill Haney, and I've crossed paths with him over the years when Devin was young. When I'd be up in LA with Maurice, back in early 2013, 14, 2015, we would cross paths in different gyms. And Bill's a really smart guy, man. Bill's done a hell of a job for his son, and not only that Devin was always exposed to a lot of different trainers. A lot of different guys would help him. And, and Bill did that consciously, knowing that, it was something new for him. But he was going to be there for his boy, you know what I mean? And I respect that. I respect that, man. You know what I'm saying? And, we can question him on this last fight, but up until now, everything's an experience. As a trainer, you always have a first for everything. There's always a first. Sometimes you get with your first guy and he looks so, so unbeatable that you never really prepare for the shock of him getting hurt or him getting beat. That's what you learn early on in boxing, and especially as a trainer, you have guys and either, get a guy up to 20-0 or 18-0 or 24-0, 25. I've had guys get up to 27-0 until then you kind of believe in a way like, well, we've done all this perfectly this whole time. So you know that it's possible for shit to happen. But I'm saying, when you're starting off, just like you said, everybody has to start somewhere and have first experiences. Bill, did he have his best night? Neither of them had their best night. And it's just, that's boxing. And, now that he's gone through that, I think Devin's always been exposed and open to, and Bill's always had other guys and very skilled people in the corner with him. I mean, if Bill took him through and he made him a unified champion, went to Australia, which isn't easy to do, and beat a guy twice in his backyard, and that's a hell of a job. You know what I mean? I know, because I've took a guy to fight overseas, more than once, and it's very difficult to win there. So doing that and accomplishing that and putting in the time, Armando, the time that you have to put in as a trainer, and he's a father as well to him, and I think he's always had Devin's best interest in him. Now, did he have mistakes? People could say, we're sitting there on the couch and we could say, hey, yeah, he said the wrong shit, this and that. And sometimes we forget that these guys are human that are fighting, and that, hey, how about what Ryan Garcia did to make, no matter what he was going to tell Devin that night, that was not going to be Devin's night. Yeah. So we have to give kudos to Ryan for that. And Bill, did he have an off night? You could look at it either way. They both had an off night. They won together and they lost together. So he's gonna learn, because I'm saying, like, he'd never gone through that. You know what I mean? And as something was, someone who's gone through a bit of big fights where I've taken a loss, it's tough. It's fucking hard, and I'm sure everybody calls for your head. That's happened to me more than once. You know what I mean? It's right. When you're winning, it's not a whole, everything's great. But like I said, Bill did a hell of a job, getting Devin to where he's at. He's one of the highest paid fighters, which is the most important. He's one of the top kids in the sport today. He still holds that WBC championship, and he's been a unified champion. And you know, he's a good kid. So yeah, Bill's gonna learn, and if wants to bring somebody in, Bill bring somebody in. But I think him and Devin have done great together, and I think they're both going to learn from this. So that's
Yeah.
what you do. You got to keep learning as a trainer.
And I think that's the key. I mean, I certainly don't want to in what I said, I don't want to take away anything from their relationship and what he has done, because obviously on social media you see he pops up at the wild card, he pops up at different gyms here in Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
His father's obviously
Devin's been well schooled by everybody.
Yeah,
by a lot of people. It's been that kid got built from the community up, and Bill was right there, and Bill took note, and Bill carried the load from whenever they felt good enough to do it on. So, and this happened. Again, they'll learn. I mean, Bill learn, and he'll move on, and it's but that's what sometimes you need these fights to happen to get more out of you as a trainer as well. So I'm sure he took note of what he did wrong, or what he felt he did wrong, and they'll correct it.
Right. I certainly hope at this level that he learns quickly. And the reason I say that, and I always pay attention to what the trainers are doing when it comes to actual during the fights, is because I think a lot of people, obviously it's an individual sport, but there's that team there that goes through camp with them, and then to see them fall short. And I always look at Lomachenko, like, again, you can say the exact same thing about his father and everything he did for him, and it literally takes nothing away from as much as
I mean, a hell of a run. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And then it's like, and then when something goes wrong, it's like, that guy, he should have never been there. I mean, that's kind of the nature of the game, man. That's that's what
it's just with like Lomachenko. I don't think his father, because I remember during the Salido fight, I was there ringside, and I was near his corner, and I'm like, what the hell is he doing? Why doesn't he tell him? Because Salido was hitting him low, and Loma had never been in that situation to where a guy was like dirty. Right. And I'm like, why doesn't his father tell him to acknowledge that he's getting hit? Like, tell the ref, do something to try to change this fight. And he never did. And then so when they announced
hit him back.
Yeah. And he never did any of that. Like, had no instruction on that. And then when he lost his next two fights, he's amazing record, but he's had 3 losses. And I look at the way those fights progress. I'm like, both times in the 12th round, they're acting as if they had the fight. And I'm like, wait, why is he running around in the 12th? He needs this round. How is it that they don't do that? Right. And so that's the thing that's when it comes to those game time decisions, the fighter is right there engaging. But if your trainer doesn't tell you, hey man, you're losing this fight, or hey man, like, do something to push him. You need this round. Go get it. Go get it. And both times when Lomachenko lost to Haney and then to Lopez, both times, to me, they lost that fight, both those fights in the 12th round, because he was acting as if he had the fight, and that came from the instruction of his father. And I think in those at this highest level of the sport, when there's big money to be made, I wouldn't take the risk if I knew that, even if it was my father, I'd be like, Dad, we need someone to make those game time decisions. I mean, it happens in other sports all the time. You look at coaches in the big games. It's like, hey, if you're not gonna, step up and make the right calls, we need to make adjustments here. And I just hope that Bill sees it, because I've certainly seen, like, Robert Garcia when he was young, there was mistakes he was making, and he, like, if I was to have anybody in my corner, like, he'd be one of the guys I choose, because he's learned on the job how to.
It's the only way. There's no other way. I mean, and that's, if it was easy to be a trainer, and and how you were as a fighter equivalent to how you're a trainer, then every world champion could be a world champion trainer. But it's way, you have to understand that shit's gonna happen, and nothing's ever going to be perfect, and sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, but you got to be consistent, and it's time consuming, man. It takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
And that's why any trainer that's up at that level, man, you got to have respect for them, because they put the time in. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And you can't get that back. So yeah, Bill's done a hell of a job. Not only getting him, being a great father to him, but like marking out this pathway for him. And like I said, you get to a certain point where you don't know what to change until maybe something bad happens, and maybe they'll make changes now, or maybe they won't. I mean, it's only his first loss, and same thing with Lomachenko and his father. I mean, that guy had a million amateur fights, and these guys grow up very structured in a that kind of environment over there in the Ukraine, and that system. It's very strict, and they believe in their way. And he had some downfalls, and he's had obviously had a great career too. I mean, these is his I think wasn't Salcedo his debut fight?
No,
Or
no,
second?
that was his third fight. It was his
Fight. Yeah, I mean,
fight.
dude, it's amateurs are a lot different than pros. You know what I mean? So that loss, that didn't surprise me, because Siri Salido, bro, at that point, even though he had about 10, 12 losses, he was vicious. And he was an experienced pro that still had a lot left in the tank.
And
That's why
he did what Garcia did. He came in heavy. He didn't care about the title. He came in, 3 pounds over again.
Yeah.
And he was way heavier, and he knew that was the game plan. I'm going to sit on this guy. I'm going to put all my weight on him, and then I'm going to hit him low and be dirty. And
just fight like a pro. And this guy never, like no one's going to save you. The referee, that was, but hey, look, it's great. Like I said, that Derek's done a good job with Ryan as well, and it'd be interesting to see what happens next, where the kid goes next, if he goes to 147.
Yeah,
I for one would love that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, with Terrence going up to 54, it opens up the division, and then Ennis, if once he gets his career back on track with his next fight, you could see that being a mega fight, as long as Matchroom is able to build him up, and so we could have a huge matchups for him at 147 pounds.
Yeah, no doubt.
I'd love to see it.
No doubt.
What do you think for Haney? I mean, obviously he still has his title, but in terms of his overall health, he took a lot of damage.
Well, it takes some time off. The kid made about $25 million, so
right.
He could take a little time off. He's still really young. He'll be back. He's still got the title, 140 pounds. I think he was out running already. I heard, through the hills. So I mean, that kid's active, and give him a little break. Why not take fight at the end of the year? He's still young. So he took some damage, but we don't play this ain't tennis, and things are going to happen when you fight at the highest level. So, I mean, he took some damage with Lomachenko too. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so, but yeah, why not? The kid's been very active. He's done a hell of a job. He was unified champion at 135. He stepped up. He did really good against Regis Prograis, picking up that title. So he lost in a mega fight, pay-per-view success, and we're prize fighters, man. This is why we do this. He made a hell of a prize, so now he can sit back, collect himself, recover, and I think they'll make the right decision. That's a good team over there.
Yeah. I was I think it's interesting, after like a side story with all this is Golden Boy, they've been they've been limping along for quite a while, and to see them have success now, Oscar's smiling ear to ear. All of a sudden, he's got
that's getting good, bro. Well, let's talk about the next fight.